Okay, so we're just finishing up the discussion on, there was a verse which was actually produced, which we talked about on the Aaron Ross show, about sperm coming from between the backbone and the ribs. We discussed it a little bit while ago. We're going to kind of finish up discussions. You asked me some questions, so I said I'd get back to you.
Don't you mean fluid, not sperm?
Yeah. Well, that's what the claim is. Because the Quran actually, if you look at the Quran, it doesn't say sperm. It says ma, water, or it can be translated as fluid. So yes, you are right about that. So let me go ahead and quickly address the questions you asked. So I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop here real quick.
And also, don't forget, you still have to prove that it is between the ribs and the backbone.
Yep, sure. We'll do that. Okay, so let's do this. So you asked, what is the name of that cavity? And I was actually right. It's called the pelvic cavity. But I wasn't 100% for sure. So just to go back, the verse which we're talking about, just for those who are wondering, okay, what are we talking about here? There's a verse in the Quran which it says, talking about man, that he was created from a fluid ejected, emerging from between the backbone and the ribs. The word actually doesn't say sperm, it just says water, which can be translated as fluid. So that's what we're talking about. Okay, so let's go. Let's get to the actual diagram.
It's not water though. It's not literally water. It's not a H2O.
Okay, well we could get into that later.
No, it isn't H2O. It isn't.
Okay, well that's an interpretation, interesting interpretation. That water doesn't mean water. Yeah.
What is it? Is it really literally water?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, but let me first address your first question about that pelvic area, then we can talk about what it means, okay? Okay, so here's a diagram, which I think is a better diagram, which is probably going to give us a better idea. Let's go to 150 here. Okay, can you see that? Actually,
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, good. So let me make it a little bit smaller here. There you go. So now what I want you to see here, there is something called the axis abdominal cavity right here. This is a line which is going straight from the ribs all the way into the pelvic area. Can you see that axis abdominal cavity line? Okay, so here, let's say if the backbone is the x-axis and the ribs is the y-axis right over here. Can we say that this pelvic area is between the x and the y-axis? Would you agree with that?
Everything right now is between the X and the Y. It's the entire body.
Right. So, but we can agree that within this pelvic area, it is between the X and the Y axis, Y being the ribs, X being the backbone. Okay, good. So this is the pelvic. That was a question you asked over here. And so here we see, this is very interesting. Axis of abdominal cavity is a line which goes right from the ribs into the pelvic area. Now, let's see what's inside the pelvic area. So yes, the x-axis abdominal is between the x and y ribs. Okay, here is a more close-up of what's inside the pelvic area. Let me make it a little bit bigger here. Okay. Within the pelvic area, you have the ductus deferens, vas deferens. This is a pipe which is right above the bladder. Okay. Now, within this pipe, this is where when right before ejaculation, the sperm goes up through the testes. It's going to go up through here. Okay, and at this point, it is not sperm yet. It is still, as you pointed out, fluid or water or something like that. Once it gets down over here, the prostate gland the prostate gland excretes some stuff into it. At this point, right before ejaculation, now it becomes sperm. So, considering the fact that the ductus deferens is within this pelvic area and the sperm goes on this fluid, seminal fluid goes right up through here. Through this area, let's go back to here. This is what we mean right here. So we're talking about this area right in here, okay? So this is my point that yes, it is between the backbone and the ribs. We can even draw a line, axis of abdominal cavity, showing you that. So do you have any problems with what you see here today?
Yeah, go back to that diagram of the pelvic cavity, please.
Sure.
I don't see any ribs here.
Well, no, of course not, because this is just a small little intersection. Okay, I'm cutting it off over here.
This whole entire cavity does not even have the ribs. You
No,
know, I mean, so
it is between.
Using your logic, It's between. So using your logic, my kneecaps are also between the ribs and the backbone.
Kneecaps between ribs? No, that's not true because the
It's,
backbone
it is.
ends.
It's between the X and Y axis. I'm using your
Okay,
logic. It's between
but
the
it
X and
ends
Y
over
axis.
here.
Is it not?
It ends over here. Do you see that? Where the
Where do
backbone?
you draw that line? How do you draw that line?
Mm-hmm.
Where it ends?
Okay, well, I draw the line right over here. I'm drawing it. Do you see that line? This is the backbone right here. Do you
The
see that
rectum.
backbone?
Yeah, I
Huh?
see the rectum right there.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
there's also, this is where the backbone ends. So as you can see, the y-axis, this is right. Yeah, y-axis. I keep getting confused. The y-axis, as you can see, does cradle right over here. And the x-axis, as we agreed, were the ribs. So yes.
So this, why don't you draw the line where the ribs end, like any sane person would?
What?
You drew the line like, okay, this is where it ends, the rectum area. That's where your in between area is. How did you determine that's the end point? Because of the backbone?
Yeah, the backbone ends right over here. You could see this whole area cradles right here,
Right. So
the
the penis is also between the ribs and the backbone. Everything here in this diagram is between the ribs and the backbone, or is it just the vas deferens that's between the ribs and the backbone?
just the vas deferens.
Why not the scrotum? Why not the penis? Why not this pubic symphysis? Why isn't that between the ribs and the backbone, or the bladder?
I guess
Why did you choose the vas deferens?
Why did I choose that? Well, because this is, well, I guess hypothetically you could argue that this stuff is between it if you start kind of rotating the body, but I'm not going there. I thought I chose the vas deferens because that is the most clearest explanation. The backbone is this whole area right over here, the sacrum is cradling it. So this is between the X and the Y axis. Can we agree that the vas deferens is between the X and the Y axis? Can you agree with that?
I agree that the vas deferens between your X and Y axis. So is the penis, scrotum, urethra, everything. Just look at that. Look at these axes. It's covering everything. It's cradling everything. Your two axes.
Okay.
Look how long it is. Everything inside this area.
Oh, you're saying are you saying my Y axis is too long?
I'm saying everything that you drew in that axis is between. Yes, is between that. So is the prostate gland.
So is your problem that you have how far the Y axis goes down? That's what your problem is?
No, you should answer my question. Why did you choose?
What's your question? Hello, I think you just blocked out. You there?
The vas deferens. Why did you single that out?
I'm sorry, dude. You cut out. You cut out there. Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, sorry. I said, okay, hold on a second. Okay, we're good now. I'm just saying, why did you single out the vas deferens?
Why not? What's wrong with it?
Then all of that is between the ribs and the backbone.
Okay, so we got agreement. You at least see from this point, it is between the ribs and the backbone. Vas,
No,
because remember what the
gonna,
Quran said.
No. That's what you're saying. I'm not saying. I'm not going around saying that my penis is between the ribs and the backbone. You're the one saying.
I didn't say that. No one's saying that. But the vas deferens.
Okay, so why isn't the penis as well between the ribs and the backbone?
Some people could.
Why just the vas deferens?
Some people could interpret that, but that's.
I don't care about some people. I care about you. Why don't you also include the penis and urethra, the pubic symphysis, prostate gland, bladder? Why the whole cavity, as you mentioned, as
let's
you
go
specified,
take a look.
that's called the pelvic cavity. Why isn't the entire pelvic cavity between the ribs and the backbone?
Okay. So the penis area is going to be right over here. So I guess.
No, the pelvic cavity, the entire pelvic cavity, the one that you brought up.
Yeah, this whole pelvic cavity is between the ribs and the backbone. We can draw the line axis of abdominal cavity, which goes right over here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's it. That's all I wanted to hear. Because no sane person would ever say their pelvic cavity is between the ribs and the backbone. Only you would admit it.
No, wait a second. You're saying science would deny that? Is that what you're saying? Do you see this axis of abdominal cavity? It is a line that's going straight from the ribs into the pelvic area, within the pelvic area. So and so you could say it is, if you look over here, this axis of abdominal is between the ribs and the backbone. You're telling me it's clearly, you could see it here, that the ribs is a line that goes right into the pelvic area. And so, yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. It's
So
kind of like
yes, it is
saying,
what?
is your nose between your ears?
It is actually.
Okay. There you go. You just answered
But
yourself.
so the pelvic cavity is between the ribs and the backbone.
Absolutely.
That's what you're.
Yes. Yep.
All
But
right.
but the
Okay.
word actually
Um,
probably, yeah. We can look at the diagram and we can
all right.
definitely see.
You're on record. You're on record to say that the pelvic cavity is between the ribs and the backbone. I'm not going to argue this point because I can't. I'm just saying you're
You
going on
can't.
record to say
Exactly.
that.
Yep.
I can't. I'm serious because it's so idiotic. No sane person would ever agree with that.
Wait
I
a
mean,
second.
how
Hmm.
nobody would ever agree with you. But that's why I'm just want to leave it at that. That this is what you're saying.
Hold on
I'm
a
cool
second.
with that. You're going on record saying that the pelvic cavity is between the ribs and the backbone.
Absolutely. Wait a
Cool.
second. Wait a second. What you're
All
doing,
right. I'm not
hold
arguing.
on,
I'm not
just
arguing with
chill.
you.
What you're doing is not going to work. I'll tell you that right now, because I've been doing this for a very long time. What you're doing, you're engaging in something called ad ridiculum. Have you heard of this fallacy?
No, explain it to me,
Okay.
please.
So ad ridiculum is a fallacy where you try to mock and ridicule your opponent's viewpoint so that to trick people into thinking that this is not even worthy of consideration. You
No,
are
that's
supposed
not.
to, okay, but now I am asking you, okay, to show me an error in what I'm saying. And you say, oh, this is all ridiculous. No sane person is going to. I'm asking you to show me the error in what I'm saying here. We have the ribs, and which you did say, ribs, which we all agreed, ribs can be considered the x-axis right over here. I'm sorry, the y-axis, y-axis. And the backbone will be the x-axis. Within the y, let me rephrase the question here. Within the y and x-axis, is the pelvic cavity between the y and the x-axis? Is that a yes or no question?
The entire body is between the x and y axis. So yes.
Well, okay, I guess that's one interpretation, but let me
I'm
make it
looking.
more granular.
I mean, look at it. Look at it. The whole body is under. What do you mean interpretation?
Okay,
Just
sure.
look at the diagram.
Okay,
Isn't
the
it?
whole body, that's a valid interpretation. But let me make it a little bit better. Let's say my x-axis ends at the backbone. Okay, now I'm making and the x-axis ends at the backbone. The y-axis ends at the ribs. I know I made these lines too small, too long, so I'll correct my my image later on. Now that I've shortened up my x and y axis, can we still say that the pelvic cavity is between the x and y axis after shortening it up per your request?
What request? I never brought up x and y axis. I just said that is the
Okay.
pelvic cavity between the ribs and the backbone.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to explain to you one more time. I want to
Let's just
explain to you again. Okay. So
let's focus on the ayah itself. The ayah specifically said
no. I
the
don't
ribs
want
and
you
the
to run away
backbone.
from this. I don't want you to run away from this because you got,
Oh my goodness. All
yeah.
right, I'm not running away. I'm
Okay.
not.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I will answer you have to answer the question. I'll ask you one more time.
Yes, it
So,
is between the x and y axis. It
okay,
is.
good. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say. And this is my point. Nobody can sit here and say that this is some kind of scientific error when it's clear that if we were to take the y-axis that ends at the ribs, my line was too long, I apologize, and the x, which ends at the backbone, which my line was too long, I'm so sorry, you did point that out. But even if I made it go on forever, still wouldn't. That's still actually, you pointed out a very good point. I should have, and we'll talk about that later. But anyways, my point here, the pelvic cavity is between the x and the y axis. So what's inside the pelvic cavity? The vas deferens is between the x and the y axis. So let's move on to the next point, if you like.
No. Wait. I need
Okay.
to address
Go ahead.
something. I did not ridicule you. I didn't attack you personally at
Okay.
all. I was actually saying in all seriousness that if you do go and ask people, is the pelvic cavity between the ribs and the backbone, they will not agree with you. I did not mean that as an insult. I meant that as an
Wait a
experiment.
second.
You should try it yourself.
Hold on a second.
Record
I've
it
actually did do that.
really ask.
I did talk to a lot of people, and because we talked about this issue, a lot of people, and a lot of
Did you
people
ask them that
agreed.
the pelvic cavities between the ribs and the backbone? Did you ask them that specific question?
Vas deferens. I asked him about the vas deferens or ductus
Well, I'm
deferens.
talking about the vas deferens. I'm talking about the entire. We established that the entire pelvic cavity is
Okay,
between the ribs and the backbone.
that's now.
You
So
just
you're
put it
jumping
on.
from ad ridiculum
No,
to
no,
ad
I'm not
populum.
jumping. Hold on. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Listen. You actually admitted. You said yes. The pelvic cavity is between the ribs and the backbone.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, I did not mean this as an insult. I meant this as an experiment that you can
Sure.
conduct yourself.
I've already done
Go
it.
take, you go ask people,
I
is
did.
the pelvic cavity between the ribs and the backbone?
Yeah, I did.
And you point to this area here. Is it up somewhere? Can I
Let's
see
do
this?
this. Okay, let's do
Because
this.
that's really hard to believe.
No, it's not. It's actually, first of all, what you're saying is wrong. Let me correct you. I've had some very good discussions with people.
Where was I wrong? Where was I
Okay,
wrong?
you're thinking that people are just going to laugh out or are not going to agree with me. I have already talked to people about this. Okay, I have already
No,
discussed this with people.
I was wrong about that. Okay, fine. I was wrong,
Okay.
proving wrong about that. But I
Okay,
meant that
look,
part where I said that. I said
let's
that the
move on.
pelvic.
Let's
No,
move on to
no,
the next point.
no.
Because now, yeah,
The pelvic cavity. Come on, you're changing what I'm saying. I'm being very, very clear, but you keep changing the subject. I'm being really clear in this. You have to, like, I want to see a video of people being asked the pelvic cavity.
Okay,
where
I'll
my
do that for
scrotum
you.
is.
I'll get that
Where my
for you.
scrotum.
Thank
The
you.
pelvic cavity. Hold on, wait, let me finish. The
Yeah.
pelvic cavity is between the ribs and the backbone.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll get that for you.
I'm not even.
If I get that video for you, you'll be satisfied then?
I see lots of people. Like, I mean, a survey of a number of people. I don't know, but just go and ask. And the thing is, like, how do we can even determine this is like not a setup? I mean, look, it's so silly. It's beyond silly. You know, I'm not trying to ridicule you. It's like we're trying to define what the meaning of in between means. Like, we're going back to Sesame Street.
Between X and Y. There you go. That's what in between means. Okay, listen.
The Quran never brought up X and Y axis. It said that it's between the ribs and the backbone.
Okay. All right. So we can see between the ribs and the backbone, we see clearly there's a pelvic cavity between there. We use mathematics. X and Y is used in mathematics. We can use that to find out if that is true or not. But anyways, we're out of time here. We went way over. It's like 25 minutes. But so what I would like for you to do is compile a list of what you think are, scientific errors in the Quran or whatever, because the debate winning argument, which Aaron Ra and the Apostate Prophet were defeated on, was they were never able to show where the Quran violates the law of non-contradiction with any proven statement from science. They were never able to do that. And that's why today they're all running away. That's why I'm now reaching out to all the people who did watch the debate, because really what you're doing now, is your name Nog? I don't know what your name is. I'll just call you. Yeah, I don't know. So that's why I'm reaching out to the audience who watched the debate. I'm like, hey, those guys have ran away because they were not able to prove their case. What his argument, Apostate Prophet's argument was, and I hope you will also condemn this. He said, oh, but the English translation says something, therefore it is true. You speak Arabic, you know this is ridiculous. But what we can say now, and the great disaster of Aaron Ra, what happened over there? He said this guy won. So they're winning art. So now I can confidently say now, those critics like Aaron Ra and Apostate Prophet who try to find scientific errors in the Quran, that's because they're just reading the English translations. That's it. They base their understanding off of that. So it is in their best English translation. But so it is in the
Arabic one. Does the Arabic one say X and Y axis?
No, we're talking about other issues like mustaqar and other issues. We're off this topic. I'm sorry. Let me close my share here. But anyways, definitely, I want you to compile that list. We're running out of time, and so we'll produce more videos in which
we'll see any point in it.
Because exactly. You don't see a point in trying to find the scientific errors in the Quran because it is impossible to do so. And that's why and that's what not just you, but many people in the comment section say, this is pointless. Wow. Because I tell you what, if you can find it, you would not have said that. But that is a clear admission that those guys lost. And that's exactly what I wanted to prove. If I could have get everyone to say what you just said, what came out of your cranium, I would have been so happy. You just admitted it is
by your
try to find it. Hey, listen, I gotta get going. Thank you so much. We'll do this.